Welcome back to Stooge Stream. I'm your host, The Stooge, and this is another Is It Worth Playing? This time we're looking at Galgun Double Piece. I played the PS4 version, but it's exactly the same on the PS Vita as well. Let's start with the controversy. This was banned in Australia, meaning that you cannot buy it retailly. I actually found it in a specialty shop, which was weird because they really shouldn't be selling it. And I bought it because I'm interested in the controversy and just to see what the game is like. Let's break this down as best we can. So let's start with the story. Basically, you're a teenage boy who's hopeless with girls. A Cupid angel, I should say, is going to shoot you with a bit of love juju to help you with girls. There's a demon also on the campus, so she ends up shooting you with way too much, and now every girl in your vicinity throws themselves at you. The only way for you to stop this is by shooting them with your pheromones and giving them ecstasy. And I don't mean the pills, I mean the feeling, and then they'll stop harassing you. You've got a Doki Doki mode, where you go into a fixed screen mode where you have to rub and touch the girls to get them to the point of ecstasy, and that's like an on-screen explosion that takes everything out. Basically, there's two girls that you grew up with that you have to decide which one you love, pursue that story. There's multiple endings, so there is replay value in that, in coming back, doing the other storyline of the other girl. Then there's a storyline where you try and convince both of them. There's a storyline where you don't want either of them, and there's a storyline where you don't know. So there is a bit of replay value in the fact that there's multiple story paths, and each story path does actually change the game slightly, though some of the boss battles are the same. A lot of the locations are the same, but there are multiple locations that you can choose from as well. So you'll get to points where you get to the next level and you can choose to go to the gym or different classrooms, or there's all different places. So there is a replay there in the story because it will change every time. Well, the limited times. There's multiple different endings as well. You can get good endings, bad endings, and so on. So there's a lot of flexibility in the story, which is quite cool. The problem with the story is that it is set in a high school, and it's set around early high school. So we're not talking 18-year-olds and above. We're talking 12 to 13-year-olds. So keeping in mind what I just described, that you're giving girls ecstasy by rubbing and touching them and shooting them with pheromones, and you can see why this is quite controversial and a bit icky and hard to play. The story does play down those lines as well, so it is a bit tough to palate, especially for a Western audience that isn't used to seeing this age being sort of used as sexual objects. Well, actually, not sort of, very much so the case. We'll come back to that a little bit later, though. Let's have a look at talk about the graphics. The graphics are very clean, nice. It's an anime style. The motion when things are moving on screen is very nice. The animation is very good. The cut sequences are done quite well. It is all in Japanese, so you do have subtitle sequences that are handled quite well. It all looks quite clean and nice. The presentation of the game isn't the problem. It's the fact that, again, it's depicting young girls. We're talking, again, 12 to 13-year-old girls, and they're depicted in a very sexual nature. So, again, over in the Western world, we're not used to seeing these types of games, and it is quite confronting, especially since the fact that graphically it is quite detailed. So you do see a lot of inappropriate content like panty shots and so forth. Putting that aside, though, the actual art style and everything else is very clean, and the animation is very good. So graphically, it is a nice game. Sounds and music. So there's only 2 or 3 tracks in this game. You will hear them over and over and over, and they get quite grating quite quickly. It would have been nice if they'd put a bit more variation in the sound design of the game. As far as the actual sound effects, the effect that they chose for your pheromone shot is quite disturbing when you actually stop and listen to it. What it's meant to depict is really not nice, so that's not cool. The rest of the sound effects are basically girls orgasming. That's pretty much the extent of the sound effects. The voiceover work is all in Japanese, so I have no way to rate it. As far as what I can hear, it does sound quite pleasant. Each character has their own very distinct voice. You know who's talking at the time. There's no time that you're confused about who's who. Yeah, so the voice work sounds like it's all decent, but it's all in Japanese, so I really can't rate that. Gameplay. So this is an on-rail shooter. Now, it plays with the control and with some touchscreen elements in the minigame sections. The gameplay itself is quite tight. Mechanically, this is a really well-made game. The whole time you're playing it, you wish that you were playing a new Time Crisis game that was built like this, or a new House of the Dead game, or a new LA Machine Guns, or a Silent Scope, or something. Actually, Silent Scope would really work in this style because you do have a zoom in, and it would be really cool. Mechanically, this is really well made. This is where I have a problem with this, because I enjoy the mechanics of this game. I like light gun shooters when they're done well, and mechanically this is done really well. You have enemies that are close and far to give you perception of distance. Some are quick, some are slow. You have enemies that shoot projectiles at you. In this case, it's words that you need to shoot out of the air. There's split screen sequences, and I don't mean multiplayer. I mean a sequence where you'll be facing forward, but enemies will come at you either from the left or right or from forward, and you have to change screens by moving left or right to take those enemies out. There's some really good mechanics at play here that show that a light gun shooter in this style would really work well. Again, though, when you tie in the graphics of what you're seeing on screen with the story, and obviously you know what's happening, it does make it hard to play, because it is kind of an offensive game. Well, very offensive, actually. So though the mechanics and the gameplay works really well, it still isn't an easy game to play. Though the gameplay itself, as I said, I really want to see somebody else take this on. Namco, learn from this, take it, adopt it, and bring in some of your classic light gun shooters back in this format. Maybe make them budget titles, like $20, $30 downloadable games, or maybe a collection on disc for full price, so you get like 3 light gun shooters for $60. That would be really cool. The modes themselves, because there is plenty of actual gameplay here, as far as multiple endings, multiple story paths, there's plenty of actual levels, so there's a lot of choice. There are a lot of double up levels at the beginning and end, but in the middle you can kind of choose where you want to go. There's a score attack mode, so there's lots of actual gameplay here, and if it was anything else, if this was bad guys I was shooting at with just a really poor story attached to it, that would make me really happy. Or, you know, bank heist or terrorists or something, just not little girls that I'm shooting at. That's kind of where we get stuck, and that brings us to the overall of this game. Overall, the game isn't, as a game, if you can take yourself away from the context of the actual story itself, the graphics, what you're seeing on screen, the depictions of these young girls, as a game itself, it's a good game. It works really well. But then when you add all of that back into it, it makes it really difficult to play. So overall, I have to say that though I enjoy the mechanics of this game, I don't like the game itself. I don't like the fact that games like this have been made, and regardless if it wasn't classified for release in this country, the fact that it is commercially available, people can buy this. Underage kids can buy this. They shouldn't be able to. I don't think overage kids should be able to. And if you took this game and repackaged it and made them college age students where you know they're over 18, or an office and they're just all sexy older women or something, like that, would be absolutely fine and wouldn't be an issue at all. But the fact that you have gone out of your way to make this about young girls is kind of the icky, sticky, really shouldn't play this, and this really shouldn't be distributed point. And I agree with the ban. Is it worth playing? No. And the reason being, not for the gameplay, not for the mechanics, because that all works really well. It's because it really shouldn't have been made in the first place. You shouldn't play a game about making teenage girls basically orgasm. That's the whole point of the exercise. So, is it worth playing? No, it's not. There really isn't a point to play this game. If they take these mechanics and apply it to anything else in the world, anything, monsters, fantasy, demons, whatever, I don't care, terrorist, whatever it is, that will be worth playing, definitely. This itself, unless you're a completionist hardcore collector like myself, don't buy this game. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any comments, throw them below. I'd like to discuss this with you. Do you think games like this should be made? Do you think these types of games should be available anywhere for release? Have you played it? What do you think of it? Comment below. I'm interested in having a dialogue with you. If you enjoyed this, like, share, subscribe, and all those good things. And there's always more content coming. Thanks.